What's up, y'all? Here we are again. Another day to be great. Hope everybody's doing well out there. Let's get right into it. The title of this John is Men Need to Take Accountability. And the thumbnail, I got the goofy illustration up because I just find like some in many situations, man, like a lot of men make excuses. You know, I'm not perfect out here. I gotta tell you, I'm far from, a work in progress. Will always be a work in progress. But first and foremost, we're gonna go back because I like to jump around. Shoop shoop do what knees are never gonna give you up. Shoop shoop do what knees I'm never gonna give you up. And the background, fire. What y'all know about that? Girl, I'm leaving you again. And I thought I'd tell you when. I know what you must feel. But if y'all are sorry. Oh, they don't make joints like that anymore. Firefighter in the building. They don't make joints like that anymore. Man. Mm-mm-mm. Mix in the building. How y'all feeling out there, man? Yeah, man. Shoop, shoop, do up. Beans I'm never. Oh, come on, man. We talk about food for the soul, music for the soul. Damn, it's beautiful. What we doing? What we doing? I'm not gonna keep y'all too long, man. I just wanted to just jump on live real quick and talk about how it's important for the men in the world, those who have some kind of foundation, firm in their own right. You know, those who already take accountability. Salute to y'all. But then you have a certain segment of men who are able-bodied, like, you know, cognitively able to function and choose to complain and make excuses instead of taking responsibility, grabbing the bull by the horns, and riding whatever wave of challenges accordingly. I mean, I don't, and it's not a generational thing for me either. That's just me. It's not a generational thing. A lot of times I hear people, and I've done it too, criticize uh, 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 millennials, Gen Z, etc., etc. But Gen X, right, and the baby doomers, huh? We left, we left a lot of problems, created problems, and left problems for the generations that are succeeding after us to deal with. And it's a little crazy. It's a little crazy. We were given a bunch of broken plates from the baby doomers. In many cases we weren't, but some yeah, because there's no perfect situation. So they pass down problems. But as men, y'all, come on, man. Stop making excuses. Like there's one thing that sort of bothers me too is when people hold on to the past, like in a way where they hold on to whatever experiences they've gone through, and it becomes sort of like a crutch for them, a crutch to where it affects them in the present, based on so many things they've gone through that could have been right challenging, could have been even traumatic. And instead of finding ways to address those problems so that you can just kind of like learn how to manage through. They go unresolved, and it becomes sort of like unbearable, to where now every day in their existence, it's oh, I'm doing this because such and such happened to me, and this and that and that and this is why, and this is why, and this is why. Meanwhile, we're in the day and age where we have alternatives, we got options, we got different ways to deal with issues. Let go of certain things to help free you so that you can move forward better without having to be shackled to the crazy traumatic experiences of the past. And I'm not saying there's a perfect solution even in that. But to blame the fact that, everything that you do today is based on, for example, your father not being around when you were small. I mean, how long is that gonna fly? Like, or even if your father was around, he really wasn't around. Or if he was around, he was just, a terror. And so that's causing you in your adulthood, right, to live through all types of problems that you create for yourself because you blaming. Come on, man. Sometimes, like, nobody could live your life. Nobody could live your life for you. You know what I mean? Good day to diversify in the building. Yes, diversify. Accountability, even when like, for real. Again, I always reflect on what I've done in my life and how I was, let's say, in my late teens. Like when I finished high school, I had to jump in the lion's den. And boom, get a blue collar job. Lion's den. Some people went straight off to the military, even more of a lion's den. Because, some people, it's just like you here, welcome to the real world. Many went off to college, went off to school, such and such and such and such. But at some point, you have to face reality and do something to sustain yourself. Because many of us didn't have the means to live off our parents forever. So you got to carve out sort of like your own specialized niche, figure out a way to make things work, create stability for yourself, pay bills, get some knowledge, some skill set, so that you can create and build a career, etc., for yourself. And a lot of times you're doing this on your own without guidance. But something motivates you to continue to push forward, right? Something because you might want better for yourself. But see, that's the key, like being pushed, being motivated. Because a lot of times I often hear guys tell me a lot of good things. It's almost like they're trying to impress me, for example, in conversation, younger people or whatever. In conversation, they're trying to impress me because they believe that maybe that I'm going to appreciate hearing things that I want to hear from them of what they want for themselves in the future and in their lives. That might be true on a small scale, but it's ultimately up to them what they want for themselves and how they execute. What are they going to do to reach those goals, right? Because you could talk to me till they're blue in the face. But if there's no action taking place to support whatever they're saying, it's null and void. You're wasting time. And a lot of times, this is what I'm discovering. Men telling me, oh, they want to do this, they want to do that, they want to, This, they got all these goals, but all they're doing is really talking. You want to pair up with some kind of female that's going to take care of you. You want to pair up with somebody that's ultimately going to work harder than you are. And you want to live off them. And then make excuses why you can't get what you feel like you deserve and need. What? You're lucky enough to find somebody that's going to be willing to put up with your funky behind. You know what I mean? You're not trying to do anything for yourself. You're just trying to pair up and live. There's people like that for real, man. There are men who are like that. They expect to be fed. They expect to be housed. Right? They expect to pay next to no bills and be taken care of like a grown-ass child. And again, I'm not talking about a situation where people are special needs, they're delayed. No, we talk about able-bodied people, individuals who choose to say, nah, I'm good. I'm not going to work. I'm not going to bust my tail. I'm not going to put in any type of work hard, nothing. I'm just going to talk my way into situations. That's the most effort I'm going to put out there in the world. And I want all my needs to be met. And that and what how does that add up? A recipe for doom and gloom. You pair up with a chick who's willing to put up with your foolishness, your laziness, your malaise, your inaction and inactivity, right? Then you criticize her for everything. God forbid, heaven forbid, you now are pregnant and you have children and you want to perpetuate a constant vicious cycle like that. When you got money problems, you got everything problems. When you're in a relationship and there's money problems, there's everything problems. Every stressor in you could think of derives out of having some type of financial issues. Every single stressor you can think of. And then you pairing up with somebody who lazy, good for nothing, who's criticizing you and is supposed to be the protector and provider. It's not easy. Don't let there be any type of vices involved either. Don't let there be some type of, right, vices, issues, addictions involved. This is a complete recipe for disaster. And who suffers? Who suffers the most? The man's not really going to suffer like that, even though you think he should, or he should be, right? And logically. Yeah, but the man's going to kicks in survival mode. Let me go find another way, another lick, someone else I can attach to, another way where I could speak well to save my behind and leave the family that you wrecked behind. It's crazy like that. And I can't respect that because there's a gross lack of accountability taken, man. Self-accountability, self-responsibility. People don't think about these things hard enough. And when I say people, because it's both sides too. You know? But I'm speaking from, not the female, but the male perspective, because I'm not a female. And I don't want to talk about the female perspective right now. So, because even when I do content online, I used to talk about, whatever you say, you got to be careful because you don't know who's listening. It's not about fear. It's not about being scared. It's about understanding. People out here will listen to your every word, and not everyone is built the same. Not everyone can process information the same. It might act upon something that you said, and hopefully it's for the positive, not something negative and destructive. But in the spirit of being socially engineered with social media, your mission, a lot of guys, their mission is just to get likes, just to become internet popular. It's about the views. It's about the likes. It's about, you know, getting this money. At all costs. It don't matter what happens. Sell your soul if you have to. And that's crazy to me, man. It's unfortunate. It's not getting any better. Social media is not helping the situation. Social media actually, in fact, like it's crazy. It's like a gift and a curse. I hear men always criticize these groups, these subcultures of cultures of groups of men, this and that. Oh, empowerment, this and that. But a lot of times I'm hearing empowerment of being super self-reliant, selfish. It's all about you, and F everything else in life. But when it's crazy, it took two people to create you. How can it always be just about you, and you? It took two to create you. There's some type of natural balance, right, that exists to help us exist. But these people in their ideology sometimes, these men groups that want to just be on their own path and live life a certain way, and it's all about ingratiating their desires, that's a natural disorder, in my view, because, you can't always have what you want when you want it in life. That's not how life works. And then make excuses and blame everybody else when things don't work out. Blame everybody else when things don't work out, instead of looking at the person in the mirror, looking at yourself in the mirror. And what I'm talking about can be applied on so many. I know it's crazy, man. I don't know, but if I was a gambling person, like if I really want to put bread on something, everybody who listens to what I'm talking about, I'm sure you've known of someone or know someone directly, heard about somebody who behaves just like that. It's woe is me, everybody wrong, everybody foul, everybody taking advantage of them. Meanwhile, they're projecting. All they're doing is projecting what they're about onto others. They work hard, harder than everyone in the world. Meanwhile, you don't see them lift a finger of anything. All they do is working hard at talking and doing nothing beyond talking and leeching, beating their bird chests, talk about high accomplishments, so many accomplishments that they've achieved. But what's it amount to? Then you have the internet where they can create a podium, this fake, fictitious podium, and speak gibberish into the world. And some people who just can't and are unwilling, not necessarily can't, but they just don't want to challenge themselves to think deeper than what's on the surface, will eat up everything someone is talking about. Who's reckless, who's irresponsible, doesn't take accountability, behaving like man children, and take their word as for law, and dismiss what really counts in life. Like, you have things to accomplish, go handle your business. If you have a job, you got a job, right? Doesn't it work out better for you to make it to work on time? Doesn't it work out better for you when you are working for someone, you are an employee somewhere, Doesn't it work out in your favor when you arrive to work on time? Just start with the basics. Build from somewhere. Build from that. You got a job, you lucky enough to secure a job. I don't care what you're doing. As long as you're doing something that doesn't harm others and even yourself, you're fortunate, right? It's important to make it on time to work and not be late. Simple. And you build from there. You know, people are dependent on you. God forbid. Like, again, you have a family and people are dependent on you. And you want to pull through for them? Pull through for yourself by meeting your commitments. No matter how small. You know? Because when you do that, it multiplies. Right? You start to understand, okay, if I get to work on time, if I appear where I'm supposed to be at an agreed time, and I do this over a period of time, I do this repeatedly, right? It becomes second nature. And then you start to develop certain habits to show a certain level of discipline. You're not only going to show up to work on time, but mainly most of your appointments that you have, you'll probably make it on time too, to all your appointments, right? Builds your character. People could depend on you, trust in your word, because your actions support your word. Oh, this guy, he told me, he's gonna make it at such and such on this day. He's gonna be here at this time. I could depend on this person because they've delivered accordingly in the past. Or the obverse is true. Someone who's always late, making excuses for being late. You know what I'm saying? They're wrong and they're strong at being wrong. They want to support their errors, defend them. You can expect them to make excuses. You know what to expect. You know what I mean? It's really not that difficult. It's just when when these men, they just hold on to complaining, making excuses, and this victimization mentality, thereby crippling themselves, dismantling every opportunity that they could have conceivably had to be successful in anything, is disgusting. Like, why are you doing that? You don't need enemies in life, because at that point you're your worst enemy. Gandhiji in the building. Pat Jager in the building. What's going on? Gandhiji in the building. Like, I just don't. At any point, things can change in life. Like, I understand, like, this thing called gratitude. Being grateful for all that we have. Being grateful for even having ourselves, having our own health, the ability to open our eyes. We have our faculties. We can breathe. You can talk. You can walk. You can eat autonomously, like just on your own, self-reliant, independent. You have the ability to think, to make a change today. That's a blessing. That just, you're in a formidable, extremely fortunate circumstance, because many people aren't, right? They're not. But you are. So what are you going to do with that? Because at any point, everything could change, right? What do we leave behind? Like, when I speak to young people, right, and particularly young men, I remember when I was in there, like I try to put myself in their shoes to see, to sort of try to learn, maybe understand their point of view, trade places in a way, so I could understand what they're talking about a little more. The difference is between me and younger men, younger people, younger men, is I was once their age, but they were never my age. At any point when I'm talking to a younger person, I remember what it was like to be 20. I remember what it was like to be 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. If they're younger than me, they don't know what it's like to be my age. You know what I mean? And so I keep certain things in mind where I share. If it's important enough and if it's necessary, I'll share something. If they're struggling with issues, naturally I'll share something. It's up to them whether they want to listen or not. If they hit themselves, if they keep banging their heads, like the obstinate, the stubborn nature of some young people is ridiculous, right? But I remember even through my being stubborn growing up, like certain things clicked, and had to click quick. I had to grow up quick in my life, right? I didn't have much time to really play. I had to grow up quick. Again, I told y'all, like when I finished high school, I had to jump in the lines then, got a blue collar job. There was no time to be nice and cute and happy-go-lucky, and there was no pampering. There was no nerd coddling in a damn blue collar job. No coddling whatsoever. It was real grown man shit going on. No more baby nothing. So get up, do what you have to do. So I try to share certain things with the people, that I'm finding like things are different. Things are not what they once were 30, 40 years ago, right? Life changes. But certain things remain the same. So I tap into that energy and I share so they can hold on to it for the rest of their life. Because what I'm talking about is relative to every demographic, everything. Like rest of your life, you could just know that if you build a solid foundation for yourself, your excuse making and your complaining minimizes. Because you understand your role as a man in life. And if you perform accordingly, things will make a little bit more sense because your foundation is strong. You're not standing on quicksand, right? Crying because some woman is not taking care of you. Stemming from past issues, perhaps, right? Unresolved from growing up. Parents weren't around, didn't give you what you needed, etc., etc. But you can't allow that to be your ball and chain to affect your present life decades later and for the foreseeable future. You got to find a way to manage through all that, man. You got to find a way to work that out. Let certain things go because it's having a direct adverse impact on your well-being and your ability to really do what you were born to do, Like certain things, I see, like when I say like certain people misuse their gifts, it's real. You know what I mean? Misuse your gifts. Like that is crazy. You're fortunate enough to have a skill that people would pay money to buy. You're fortunate enough to have a talent that people would pay money to buy. And when you misuse that, it's like you're directly slapping the creator in the face. Blow! Like you didn't need that. All right. Your life is going to reflect your disdain. And you misuse and you abuse your gifts. You don't think you're going to pay for that in some shape, form, or fashion? You don't think you're going to pay for that? You're going to pay for that. We're watching somebody pay for that, and I'm tired of talking about that person. Tired of talking about that person, bro. But we're watching somebody pay for that dearly. Dearly. And unfortunately, the masses can't see past their nose and are getting caught up and swept up with the bullshit. And that's unfortunate. Why? Because that same individual refuses, denounces taking self-accountability. It's a perfect example. Perfect example. Person denounces taking self-responsibility and wants to project and wants to deflect, wants to avoid, taking onus for everything. Deny, ignore, evade, all that. Who gets hurt in the process? Because people have gotten hurt. People are getting hurt. People will continue to get hurt. And why? Because of some what? Problematic, traumatic upbringing. What? Mental struggles. What? And so the world has to pay the whatever traumatic incidents that occurred. It's unfortunate. It is. But why is that allowing you to become such an ingrate, such a wicked human being? Because now everyone else has to pay for things that happen to you. That you decided not to even learn how to manage through. Not saying that it was the person to blame. I'm not saying it's their fault that they went through whatever they went through. But now it's damn near comical. Like sometimes it becomes so maniacal where people get thrills off of seeing other people suffer. And will throw their hands up and say, it wasn't me. They'll act like Shaggy. Wasn't me. Wasn't me. Like, this is what you're dealing with. This is what we're In some cultures, men stay with their families till late ages. Like, that's what they do, right? Like, some cultures, you'll see a man stay with their parents. They assume their own family. They got their own situation going on. They grow up in age. They become grandparents in their parents' house and everything. They didn't leave their family's house, right? I get that. I understand the cultures. I understand certain aspects, certain dynamics involved with certain cultures throughout the world. You transplant, for example, you transplant that into New York City. And I know this close, very close. Transplant that to New York City, and you watching. Not only are these grown individuals, I've seen this from a child growing up. Not only DOC in the building, not only did I see it from a child growing up watching men live with their mothers when I was a kid, when I became a young man, they still stayed with their mothers. Not only that, but they married women and had the women move in with them and their mother-in-law. Right? Cool. Now that family has children. And guess what? The man is still living with his mom. By the way, the man hasn't had a single job in his life. That's the part that's super very interesting to me, and not interesting in a good way. Never assumed any job. So this is why I was talking about people living off other people, and as long as their needs are met, they don't care how it gets done, but it's getting done. And a lot of times these men pair up with these women so that the women could take care of them. And I mean, this is something I've seen since I was a kid. And it's flippant. If you offer critique, oh, it's an issue. If you offer critique and be like, yo, man, why don't you go get a job, man? Your wife working 3 jobs, yo. Oh, it's instant beef. Of course it is. Mom tolerates you being under mom's wing. Being there, not under mom's wing, but also you offer nothing. You're just there. You gets your hands on a lady who putting up with your John. You're I mean, come on, man. I guess love is blind. Love is blind every time for certain kind. Love is blind. So, lady gonna work 70, 80 hours a week to live with you and your mom in the P's. And P's, I'm saying short for projects. Project housing. Now you're raising a child. You're raising a child in the same dwelling. And not only that, do you think it's really the 4 of them living there? Of course not. It's the projects, P's. It's not just the 4 of them living there. You got extended relatives living there. And you as the man, you see nothing wrong with it because you live in a free, comfortable life. You're not paying rent. You know what I mean? Your wife got 3 jobs, 2 full-time jobs and 1 part-time. Two full-time Johns and 1 part-time. Mother works. His mother works. You know what I'm saying? Like, but he don't. And they good with it. He pushing nice vehicles. Of course, you got the nice threads, your apparel, right? Exquisite, prestige, like real nice. Put together. Of course, you're funded, you know? And what does he do? He finds himself getting into these certain industry, right? Like, come on, son. You know, nightlife. You're promoting parties. Of course. You don't get a 1099 at the end of the year. You know, you're not paying taxes. You promote parties. You managing now. You call yourself being in the music industry. You trying to, right? Be a manager of artists, of a band, right? You're trying to go on tours. This is what you're offering, right? But you're not bringing anything back to the family. You're not bringing anything back to home. So whatever you touch, you keep. It's one thing if you were contributing. I know this, I've learned this firsthand, bro. Like, this ain't even You know, there's no speculation, making things on. I've learned this firsthand. Dude's, he got like at least 10, 15 years on top of me. So I'm watching him perform as a child, like adult, and watching it, listen to adults. And as I grew older, I really understood what he was doing. And I'm like, yo, not only was he getting to the bag, but he was getting into the panties. You know what I mean? Like the music industry, more often than not, it's not about who you know, it's who you blow. So dude sliding in all kinds of drawers. Meanwhile, your lady working 3 joints, 3 jobs, trying to keep, right? And you got this haphazard, no consistency, unstable income thing going on. And you making excuses, but you kicking your feet up because you pushing Mercedes Benz off of the back of your wife, right? You don't have to eat a meal because either your mom or someone in the household, your sister, is gonna cook a meal, or make sure you fed every day. You don't know how to cook, but you eat every day. You got jewelry, of course. Why? Because whatever little bread you made off the road, off tours and the music, but it was for yourself. Your wife gets nobody in the house gets any. Stuff like that, man. Stuff like that, man. You know, 100% DOC. That's how I learned. That's how I learned. The man looks out for the parent, wives, and kids. The man does that. That's how I learned. That's how I was taught. And even in the same culture, it's like, yo, this guy veered off. Because people veer off and think it's cool and feels no way about it. You're going to veer off from what you were taught to do, what you were trained and learned how you grew up, and then you're going to do the exact opposite and dare anybody to question. Life has a funny way of teaching us things, right? So, child they had was a girl. And I say was, I'm saying that just because of the time. I don't know if she's alive, so I don't know if she's, not saying in the past like she passed on. They had a girl. In the girl's life, you know how things come back to people, right? It's crazy, man. This girl was so incorrigible. Like, I would talk about, so this is like I want to say like a second family, second cousin type situation. Because dude is my cousin. Let's just put that out there. Let's be clear. Dude is my cousin. Dude who got 10, 15 on top of me, my cousin. That's who, and I'm like, wow, you wildin'. So I can't even live off a female, bro. I can't even do it. I wouldn't even, my spirit, my parasympathetic nervous system wouldn't allow me to accept some shit like that, right? So, yo, they had a daughter. Girl grows, listen, man. When you talk about raising girls, let me tell you something, y'all. Whew, it ain't easy, bro. And you know the years where it's the hardest? Between, like, I would say 11 to damn near 18. Coming up in New York, yo, the most difficult years, 11 and 18. Them 7 years right there, those of you who are single, I'm telling y'all something right now. Teenage girls, you better get yourself, you better get yourself, be grounded, be firm, You know what I'm saying? Like you in for a wild ride if you don't have your ducks in order, man. Homegirl, the girl is bad, bro. Like I'm not gonna say too much, but just know that girl, like my cousin, right? He bald, always been bald all his life. His daughter, his daughter forced him to grow hair. His daughter put him and his mom through some shit. And to me, and looking back, I was like, yo, man, it's a balance, it's an order of things, man, that sometimes is higher than we can even understand, man. You want to be a parasite in a way, sit back on your laurels and do nothing and think it's cool? Well, while you're doing nothing thinking it's cool, your daughter's going to force you to grow hair because she's out here wilding. She's out here wilding. You know how our daughters, they like to say, daddy little girl, daddy's little girl. We close, a lot of fathers are closer to their daughters than their sons, and a lot of sons are closer to their moms, that type of paradigm. Well, that daddy little girl for daddy was like, she was behaving nightmarish, and they had to endure for years. Like, we talking, yo, many things you could imagine. Many things you could imagine was taking place. It was hellish for hey. Not to say that, if he was like a working person, he had a different attitude, things might have not have been the same, might have been correct, or who knows? I know one thing. It was every week I was hearing some crazy report about my second cousin, the girl. Like, wow, like it got to a point where I reached a point where I was working in a group home. By this time, I'm like, I'm already, I'm what, maybe 20 years old. No, like 24, 25. I'm working in a group home. I'm working in a group home, right? These boys, they were, young kids. They just completely disenfranchised. It was just, they went through, a lot of them at the age between 10 and 15 years old. The kids, 8 kids in the home. Most of them lived lives that many lived like several lifetimes, and they didn't even reach. Many of them didn't even reach young adulthood, like crazy. Anyway, my former coworkers were in a conversation one day, and it's like whatever, talking, and then I'm hearing in the background a name. They hurling a name. They talking about a name, and I'm like, I only know one name. I only know one person with that name, yo. And I had to jump in because there's certain people, they got certain names. It's not popular, right? Certain names are just unpopular. And when you're hearing other people say the name, you're like, oh, wait a minute. I know somebody with that name. Are they talking about the same person, So I jumped in the conversation. I didn't care. I'm like, yo, what's up, man? Yo, did I hear you say such and such, such and such? They were like, yeah. And I'm like, and I asked them, like, who? Yeah, who's that? And they were like, yeah, this is, this person, they from here, and this is what they've been doing, and this and that. And I'm like, yo, that was my cousin. That was my second. I'm like, yo, they talking about, and they ain't even know. And I'm like crazy. I'm like, oh my God. Yo. And at that point, I was like, yo, this is out of control. I'm hearing this thing from like we talk about folks, they didn't know nothing about me, about nothing. And then when I told them about that, and when they said that name, and I'm like, huh? What is that? That's like, What are the chances in life? I would rather hit lotto than hear some nonsense like that. And the story they gave me, it was just crazy. I mean, it's not for the internet. I mean, if I wanted clout, I put all that shit online. But I don't want clout. You know what I'm saying? But it's not for the internet. It was crazy. And that was just another thing I didn't know about of many things that they had to endure. It is what it is, man. It is what it is, man. DOC said, you remember me talk about, yeah, because it's unbelievable, bro. My aunt's passed away since, right? Dude is still there. Of course, he inherited the spot. It's in the PJs. He good. You understand? Like, this is the thing, man. Like, we're over here, right? Like, certain things with PJs, projects, people have a lot of conspiracy about when they talk about projects. Oh, this is a project. They just want to just throw in poor people, black, Latino, impoverished white people in the projects because it's a project lab. They're doing tests and lab experiment, all kinds of stuff I've heard throughout the decades about projects, right? The thing about projects that make people just not want to leave is the affordable rates, right? We living in a metropolis, a place where, right, is known throughout the world, and people come all over the world to come visit this and that. So you could find a place where you're paying $150 for a 3-bedroom in 2026. That's a steal. That's something like, right, $200, 300 for a 2-bedroom, 4-bed, not 4, 3, 2, 3. I know somebody was paying 2.5 for a 2-bedroom in a project building, and that's just me. And there's thousands of them. So I don't, I'm not saying what I'm saying is law and it's applicable across the board. But if you have these gems out here, gem of an opportunity, granted, it won't be in the best neighborhood, but you'll be paying a fraction. But the problem is your income is minuscule anyway. But these things have been passed down from generation to generation. So in that case, this guy got no issues spending all his life there, right, in Brooklyn. Like, spending all your life there. You're not buying property. You're not moving on, like investing in other things. You was, smashing all kinds of chicks on your wife. You know what I mean? Like in the, and that's not my business. But his endeavors were different. His goals were different than, others. And hey, it must be nice, It must be nice, man. I don't know. The lady, I think his wife, I don't know. I've heard that she wasn't in the best of health. Within the last several years, hasn't been in the best of health. And, I don't know. But, crazy, man. The daughter became she calmed down in a late adult, 30s. She calmed down. You know what I'm saying? But them teenage years was crazy. But in any case, y'all, got a boogie. I'm going to catch y'all on the next one, man. Thanks for rocking with me. Like, share, subscribe. That's as far as my clout will go. I'll catch y'all on the next one, man. God bless.